Vanderbilt Commodores need to focus on pushing the pace against the Gaels if they want to get back on track. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. On this episode, we're going to break down how Vandy can put stress and discomfort on St. Mary's by pushing the pace and playing faster. They already have that chip on their shoulder. They need to push the pace, and this could potentially lead to a methodical team making uncharacteristic mistakes. St. Mary's is a 5.5-point favorite, so they need to figure out something. So then we're going to switch gears to football. The Commodores are back on the field, and not surprisingly, the defense is slightly ahead of the offense. That's typical spring practice stuff at this point. That's no indictment on the offense, but this defense is loaded. So how's the Steve Gregory era going so far? Also, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances now. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Locked On, your team every day. So this is interesting, right? Because the reason I love this matchup so much, right, is because St. Mary's is a very methodical team. They're not a fast-paced, up and down the floor, throwing up shots at will, get hot, and pour in a whole bunch of points. They're a team that's going to set you up, move you around, and try to, they're a team that also focuses on quality over quantity of shots. They want to make their shots count. They want to get rebounds, and they want to shut you down at the other end. So teams like that often rely on patience and often rely on things to go right. And when you're a methodical team, you have to be extremely disciplined, which St. Mary's is. That's why they're in the position they're in. They're West Coast Conference runners up. They actually out-rebounded Gonzaga, but Gonzaga, I think, was able to, in the second half and in crucial moments, was able to kind of dictate what was going on and kind of, actually take the game to St. Mary's, and St. Mary's wasn't able to adjust in due time. So this is one of those, matchups where, when you have two teams that are very similar, because Vanderbilt likes to do that. They like to sit back. They like to move the ball around. They focus on defense. But to me, I think Vanderbilt in this matchup is a little bit more versatile. Okay. And what I mean by that is, if Vanderbilt needs to, they can change tempos. I don't feel like St. Mary's can really change tempos as well as Vanderbilt, because I think Vanderbilt has the different pieces. And I think this goes back to recruiting from the portal. And Mark Byington was able to get guys that can play that defensive style, that can play a little bit more methodical style of basketball. And at the same time, he's got lineups that he can throw in there that are run and gun, just up and down the floor, create havoc. Like Jason Edwards, Tyler Tanner, Devin McLaughlin is one of those running big men. So it's guys like that can get in and really just kind of push the envelope. And I think for Vandy to be able to have success and to be able to get back to where they were, because they've been on they're on a 3-game skid. I think they got a little too comfortable, and then they realized, oh crap, and then they kind of panicked. And it all, everything that could go wrong went wrong. They, against Texas, they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn or couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat, whatever expression you want to use. And, against Georgia, I think they just kind of got surprised at how good Georgia actually was. And Georgia got hot. They were shooting well. They were playing well in the paint. They were able to, Silas Dimery was able to get to the rim in that matchup, and they just kind of overwhelmed Vanderbilt. On the road. So that was kind of like one of those, they were hungrier. There's some circumstances there that caused Georgia to be able to win that game. And Arkansas, it was just kind of one of those buzzsaw games where Arkansas was just on fire. and they couldn't be stopped. And John Calipari is a Hall of Fame caliber coach. No matter how you look at him personally, or whatever your opinion is of him, that guy can coach, and he can get the best out of his teams. And for some reason, he had Vanderbilt's number that night. So a lot of things went wrong for Vanderbilt, and the confidence. And the point of all that is the confidence was at an all-time low. But they have a chip on their shoulder, and they have a chance to really kind of. I don't want to say shock the college basketball world, because, a 10 seed beating a 7 seed is not all that shocking. But I think that the fact that St. Mary's is 5.5-point favorites, a lot of the pundits are riding the Gaels as far as, who's going to go. I would be willing to guess that the majority of people picked St. Mary's to advance to the second round to play against Alabama versus Alabama. And to be honest, I don't blame them. Alabama's been playing really well, but Vanderbilt has not given people a reason to have confidence in them lately. They haven't been getting to the rim. They haven't been taking good shots. They've been getting dominated on the boards. They just haven't been able to do the things that they need to be able to win. And again, and they would admit that. I think anybody would tell you on that team that they're just not playing like themselves. They're not playing the Vanderbilt style of basketball that got them the bid to the NCAA tournament. They're playing the brand of basketball where it's probably June 2nd, and they're having the second scrimmage of their existence together as a team, and it's sloppy as hell. And the ball is flying everywhere except for the basket and except for the hands of the teammate you're intending on passing it to. It kind of looked a little bit like that, a little bit like helter skelter, like they weren't on the same page. And it's not an indictment on anybody. It's not anybody's fault. It's just, when you have a brand new team like that, and when you have guys that just like at times it just feels like they just kind of revert back to like the instincts of, hey, we just met each other and maybe I don't quite trust this person to get the job done, and I'm going to do it myself, when that's actually not true. And they've actually performed for each other before, and they're actually a really close knit group. But it's going to be a situation to where I think getting this team back on track is going to be finding that groove of a high tempo game. And if they push the pace, it puts a lot of stress on these methodical type teams, because they're not used to running a gun. They're used to getting the ball, holding it, chewing clock, finding the perfect shot and capitalizing. And Vanderbilt, I think in some of the games that they've won and some of the success that they've had, they've been able to create turnovers, get rebounds, and quick outlet pass, and here we go. Get the ball to Jason Edwards and let him fly down the court, make something happen, get pinballed and one, hit the free throw and all that good stuff. Tyler Tanner, same way. When they're streaking and running towards the basket and moving and getting open looks and jamming and stuff like that. Like the game they played against Ole Miss, I think was one of their best games all season, as far as how together they played and how well they were able to communicate, how they were able to run and really kind of make Ole Miss uncomfortable. Now, Ole Miss is a good team, so they got back on track, but they were able to jump out to that early lead because they forced Ole Miss into taking bad shots, contested shots. They were able to rebound and get the ball out and get down the floor. And Ole Miss for a little while felt like, hey, if we don't score every possession, we're not going to win this game. And that's kind of how you put the stress on the other team. That's what I think needs. It needs to be an element of the game plan. And to be honest, that I think that would get them back on track. I think this chip they want to play with, I think that's part of it. It feels like this team, by saying that, like, we want to get this chip back on, and we haven't been playing like ourselves, like all those quotes that they've been saying, I feel like that's geared towards, hey, we want to run. We're trying to play like we've been trying to play a half court game, trying to play not to lose, trying to, trying to make up for, some of the deficiencies that we have against some of these other teams in our league. And they're just not themselves. It was just clunky. It was just discombobulated a little bit. There was, Texas had, Georgia had gotten some really good open looks at the rim and was able to finish. And so I think for Vandy to feel good about what they're doing, they've got to be able to run. They've got to be able to move. They've got to be able to, get a steal, run down the court and dunk it. They've got to be able to hit 2 or 3 passes, slash to the basket and go, or get a pinball and one, because that seems to be what Jason Edwards does. Tyler Nickel went 4 for 4 for his first 4 3-point shots against Ole Miss. Like, having something like that. Grant Huffman getting back in the lineup, that's going to be a huge deal because he's one of the better shooters, and they've been missing him all season long. And so if he can get in and make some big threes and hit some big shots, I don't know how many minutes he's going to play just coming off the injured list, but if he can come in and provide a spark of like hitting 2 or 3 clutch threes, that can be a huge contribution, because that can be a start of like a 9-0 run. And St. Mary's, as good as they are, as efficient as they are, as effective as they are with that methodical style of play, they get behind. If they get on the wrong end of a 9-0 run, that could spell trouble for them, because they're not a team that's built to come back, because they're not a team that relies on going on runs to get that. They're a team that's going to shut you down, frustrate you, and get you to turn the ball over and give them chances to put the points up. If they're on the other end of that and they're stressed out and all that stuff, it's just not going to happen for them. So pushing the pace is, I think, going to be the ultimate thing for this Vanderbilt team, because A, it's going to get them back to their identity, and B, it's going to put pressure on a classically methodical team that wants to slow down the game. It's going to kind of force them to ratchet things up a little bit. And they're not used to that. And they're not used to the pace of play. They're not used to the physicality of the SEC and of the grind. And so they're going to figure out real quick what their depth is and what their quality of depth is, because they're going to use their bench for sure. So, again, I can't wait to see what this matchup is like. I can't wait to see kind of how Vandy comes out, and they got nothing to lose. Like, Vanderbilt got in the tournament, like they're playing with house money, so they have nothing to lose. Just go out there and just throw it all out there and see what happens. Vanderbilt's a good team. Mark Byington's done a phenomenal job. Just go out there and just play, man. Just relax. Anyway, we're going to switch gears to defense. Spring practice is back underway. Clark Lee, defense is slightly ahead of the offense. I'm not surprised by that. And Steve Gregory, was it a good hire? Is it, are the concerns still valid with that whole situation? We'll talk about that and more next. Hey, but first, we're talking about Upwork. And that means scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. So if you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. And the hiring is fast and easy. And posting a job is free and simple. And within a day, you get multiple qualified candidates to choose from. How awesome is that? And it's cost effective too. The growth is, at least. So cost effective growth means instead of hiring full time, Upwork helps you find affordable top tier freelancers to scale my business efficiently. Right? So visit Upwork.com right now. Post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Also, life moves at you fast, especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. So that's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You can be covered in under 10 minutes. And in many cases, there's no health exam required. How awesome is that? All right, peace of mind. How important as a parent, how important is that? Well, I want to make sure my family's financially protected no matter what happens. And Fabric gives me that peace of mind. And affordable coverage, you can get $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. So protecting your loved ones doesn't have to break the bank. And also, Fabric also offers free digital wills, access to investment accounts to help you plan for your children's future. So join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today and in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company. Not available in certain states. Prices are subject to underwriting and health questions. All right, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen. Make sure if you need a second listen, Locked On SEC with Chris Gordy. Maybe even check out Locked On Ole Miss with Stephen Willis. There was some bulletin board material that some national pundit put out there for Ole Miss. Like, how dumb is that? Like, they don't need any bulletin board material over there. It's crazy. So, but make sure you check that stuff out. I'm pretty interested in seeing what Steve has to say about that. But we're switching gears to football. Okay, now spring practice, it resumes. But here's the thing: the defense is ahead of the offense. And in some cases you can say you often hear, oh, defense is way ahead of offense. Like the offense is, I'm kind of worried about the offense. They're not good. That's kind of some valid concerns that you get. I don't think that's the case here. I think defense is ahead, but they're not miles and miles ahead, right? I think the offense is doing some good things. I just think the defense had a better day in this particular practice session, and they had a goal line period, and the defense won most of the reps. I think it was a goal line passing period, so the defense won most of the reps. But I'll tell you what, though, before I kind of really get into the nitty gritty with the defense, I'll tell you this though: Chance Fitzgerald had a really nice touchdown grab down in the red zone. So in my wide, I'm going to point out every single little wide receiver win. You know why? Because I made a bold prediction. That's why. And I'm going to point it all out every single time. Every single time one of those guys catches a touchdown pass, I'm going to tell you about it because I'm trying to tell you how good this receiving core can be and probably will be if they continue with this trend of development. Like I said yesterday, one of the things I'm looking forward to the most is these live competition periods, because the receivers, they can only answer positively, right? And the defense is going to win their reps, right? And realistically, when you're going against yourself, you want the wins to be 50-50, right? You want the defense to win a few reps. You want the offense to win a few reps. You don't want any one side to dominate because that's concerning for the other side. You want, hey, the defense, it doesn't matter who you think won the day. That's usually arbitrary because the coaches are going to determine, based on their own metrics for that day, they're going to determine who won. So it's not like, the coaches are never going to tell you, oh, the defense was way ahead of the offense. If they do, it's just kind of a way to motivate the offense or vice versa. So, but this is going to be an interesting deal. And this is going to be more of a defensive minded chat. But, I'm really impressed with what the thing with spring practice is this: when you have a lot of competition, like I said before, it doesn't necessarily matter who wins. It's going to all even out. You want these guys to compete hard. You want it to be tough. You want it to be not a clear winner. You want it to be, everything they're doing is geared towards competition. It's geared towards handling these situations. Like when they get down in the red zone, this defense knows our offense. They know what's going on. They know how these guys want to play. They know kind of the trends and things like that. So it's usually not panic inducing for the most part if the defense is ahead, because they're more reactionary. They know the calls, they know the tendencies. Like there's a lot of things that our own defense knows about our own offense that would probably give them a slight advantage, right? It would probably cause a headline like Diego Pavia did not have his best day, or he was downright bad, today, or that might lead to some of the, I'm not saying he was bad, but that might lead to some of that. Like when you see some of these reaction pieces, like, oh, Diego Pavia was bad, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be bad. It just means that, defense got him. And that's natural. That's going to happen against your own team. The defense is going to get you. They know how to bait you. They know your personality. They just know. And it just, it is what it is. I'm not worried about it. Like, I think, there's a potential that there's some people out there that might see a report like that and go, oh, Diego Pavia had a bad day. Oh, what do you think about that? And they're talking with their coworkers like, oh gosh, did we make a mistake here? No, you did not make a mistake with Diego Pavia. It's okay. He's going to struggle. He's human. Okay. So I'm excited about this defense. I'm excited about the competition, really. I'm excited about these guys. I'm excited about these units getting after each other. I'm excited about the wide receivers, DBs just going at it, especially down on the goal line. That's an important place to score. And so I'm excited that, things can happen. I'm pumped for this backup quarterback job battle. And it's Drew Dickey and Blaise Berlowitz right now. I didn't think it'd be those two, to be honest. I thought maybe Jeremy St. Hilaire would be in there, who I think is probably the most talented guy on the roster at that position, but also probably one of the more raw quarterbacks at that position as well. So that's going to be interesting to kind of see how that goes. And I'm kind of interested in checking that out. So, but defense, they won. I guess if you had to declare a winner, defense won the day. But there's a lot of football left to be played in this spring period. So, the thing I really want to know, the Steve Gregory era, are we still concerned? Is it off to a good start? Like why would we be concerned that that Clark Lee might relapse into what happened year before last in 2023 with Joey Lynch? Like, why are we concerned about all that? We'll talk about that next. But first, it's Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Often. But probably this type of week, it probably went to FanDuel. But between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you just stop managing your money and start building wealth. So when I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on food delivery. Wow. Now I budget smarter and save more. And it has an all-in-one convenience, right? Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check all of your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress, or without the stress of at least the communication part of it. There might be other stress involved probably, but that has no bearing on this app. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. And Joint Chiropractic, 900. I'll be brief on this one. 900 locations nationwide. Pick the one closest to you. They will take care of you. You'll get adjusted. You'll feel really good. They have really good health plans. They have really good membership plans and benefits. So make sure you visit one closest to you.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Hey, wrapping up the show here at Locked On Vandy. Make sure you follow us on social media at Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms. We're talking about football, right? But to recap, if you press that rewind button, if you want to talk, if you missed the part where I was talking about how Vandy can make St. Mary's uncomfortable by like ratcheting up the pressure and ratcheting up the tempo, making them get on their heels a little bit. But we're talking about Steve Gregory now. Now, Clark Lee, right before spring practice, handed over his play calling duties again. He named Steve Gregory the defensive coordinator for Vanderbilt football. And, it raised some eyebrows. I'll be honest, I was concerned because to me, it's not broke, so why are we trying to fix it type scenario where it's like, this is going well. I don't think we needed to change anything. The current system is not broken. And I was concerned about that because rightfully so, in 2023, you're coming off a pretty good year defensively and you turn the reins over and all of a sudden everything just goes to hell in a handbasket. And so to me, and to a lot of Vanderbilt fans, and there is that sense of like, oh, we're about to lose Coach Lee again, right? And rightfully so. He had, I think that was a really good learning experience for him. And if you get a chance, there's a little blurb that Robbie Weinstein did on Vandy 247 that's really good. He was able to talk to him about that and talk to him about why, I think for me, it made me feel a little bit better with Clark Lee's answer. That is, made me feel a little bit better. And it could very well be coach speak and him defending his guy. I just, for some reason, I don't think that it is, right? And this is only a small portion of what he had to say about it. But he said, my job as a leader of the staff is to pay attention to alignment and to make sure that I'm setting expectations, holding people accountable. I don't know that I knew how to do that all the way when I was first in it. And to me, that lets me know that he's not perfect, first of all, right? This was his first head coaching gig, and you don't know everything. And the people that think you're supposed to are delusional because there's a huge learning curve when it comes to being a head coach, especially a head coach in the SEC. And so Clark Lee, I thought in year one, it was a tough run, tough roster. Like year one, you're learning stuff and, okay. Year two, you show improvement. Right? You go 5-7, you knock off Will Levis, you knock off Florida. You're right there on the cusp of bowl eligibility, but you don't quite make it. And, you have a pretty successful year. Things are looking up, right? And so in 2023, but for the first 2 years, you could tell Clark Lee didn't really know how to be connected. He wanted to be, but I just think as a CEO type head coach, he wasn't really sure where. You could tell he wasn't very comfortable in a lot of those scenarios of how to manage certain aspects of the program and really just kind of navigate through. He was kind of wading through it very carefully. You could kind of tell just by his sideline demeanor, he was just trying to, figure it out. And so you get from year 3 to year 4, I think he recognizes that he invested in the wrong things, and he even said so as much in the overhaul led to the overhaul, right? He said, he went on to say, also allowed for early decisions to impact secondary decisions. And when you look at it, the theme for me was we made progress from year 1 to year 2. We didn't carry that progress forward. I didn't necessarily have indicators year 1 to year 2 because I wasn't sophisticated enough to know how to scrutinize it to say, hey, these are the things we may need to change, even though we're seeing this progress. So it's it's almost like he wasn't sure exactly where the profits were coming from, and he had an idea of where the profits were coming from. When I say profits, I mean profits and progress, the good things. And so you kind of just build around a bad nucleus, and things went way south. And he just didn't have a grip on it. And then year 4, he overhauls it, goes back into the defense coordinator room, and kind of just figures it all out. and you come out of it going, okay, well, this feels pretty good. So why am I saying all this? Because I think this iteration of him handing back the defensive coordinator role and him going back to being just a head coach, I think it's going to look a lot differently, because I think he knows now where he needs to be. Like, he's not going to just hand over the defense and say, all right, cheers. Just gonna sit right here. I'm just gonna do my thing. Right. It's different. And I after reading that, I feel better about it. I was concerned. I really was. I didn't know how it was going to go. I was kind of worried because things went so south the first time around. And again, it just gets down to the fact of, okay, you just don't, you're just not experienced enough to kind of know your pitfalls are coming until those pitfalls happen. And, that's okay. That's part of the learning experience. And most places, I think 99% of the places that he could have worked at would have fired him after that. Vanderbilt didn't. And now they're reaping the benefits. And he's learned a lot. You can tell by the way he speaks. You can tell by his demeanor that he's much more comfortable. He's talking. He's reacting. He's got real human emotions. It seems like the players are feeding off him a lot better coming out, in year 4 than they were, even in year 2 when they had a little bit of success, right? I think the players are feeding off of them. I think the fans are starting to realize it. I think the fans are starting to see it, the student section especially. I think things are falling into place better. I think there's better systems in place. I think he knows more. Having Jerry Kill around definitely helps that growth in knowledge. And I think he's just in a way better place now than he was before. I still don't love it because it's not broken, so why fix it? But I get it, because he does need to be the head coach. He does need to wear that hat primarily. And he didn't wear, I don't know if he wore that hat enough. I think I think the Georgia State game happened because he might have been just too wrapped up as defensive coordinator to kind of figure out and to kind of see what was coming down the pike at him, in regards to the team culture. And so, that Georgia State game may have ambushed him a little bit. So, but I'm going to trust him now. And I know that, a lot of people will say there's not a whole lot of reason to trust him, but I'm going to trust him. I'm going to say, hey, he's making the right moves. This is really good. And I think the circumstances are a lot different now than they were. And so I think it should make you feel a little bit better. But anyway, spring practice will continue to rage on. We'll kind of see it all unfold anyway. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about this session. I'm excited about seeing these matchups, seeing these competitions, and reading about, what receivers did what DBs did what, how the offensive line and defensive line, how they battled. I'm excited to hear all that stuff. So, but as I read it, I will bring it to you. I will react to it, and we'll talk later. But until then, we'll see you next time on the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Peace.